Hi there and welcome to another PSD Toots support video. I'm Gavin Steele and I'm going to be taking you through Fabio's Mix Cool Retro Curves into your photographs tutorial. This is the final image that we're aiming for, and you can follow all of the steps over at the website, or you can follow this video tutorial on how to create that effect. There are two files you're going to need. You're going to need the coffee stain file and the handstand file. Both of those can be found at the stock exchange for free. Just set up an account. And I've started by taking this image straight into Photoshop, and you can see it there. Now I'm just going to desaturate that layer by going to adjustments and then desaturate, and then I'm going to apply a layer style, and I'm going to put on a color overlay. This color overlay is going to be a soft light, and the color is going to be a light brown. So 8B 5C 01. Yep, that should do it. Okay, so I'm going to apply that at 100% and click on OK. Right, now we're going to start creating the brush so that we can create this little swirl over here. Okay, so to do that I'm just going to open up another file. Doesn't really matter about the size of it. And I'm going to create my brush. So I'm going to choose the rectangle layer, make sure it's black, and I'm going to make it about so big. Now we're going to transform that and we're going to sharpen up those edges. So we're going to use the skew, and we're just going to bring this bit down, and the top bit, the top right, we're going to bring up like so, and then just hit enter, and that's our shape created. So we need to convert this layer into a raster layer. So I've converted it to a smart object. If I just control click, rasterize the layer, and then come over to edit, and we're going to define a brush preset. Okay, and I'm going to call this, let's say, bars 1, and I'm going to click on OK. And now if we go to our brush tool, we should find right down at the bottom we have our brush, and that's it there. Okay, and that's one I created earlier. Right, I can close that down, I don't need to save it, and on our picture here we can come over to our brushes bar, making sure that we've got that brush selected. Okay, and we can play around with how that's going to look. And you can see the outline of the brush on the canvas now, and we're going to play around with spreading it out, reshaping it, and so on. So the first thing you need to click on is brush tip and shape, and we can leave all of that the way it is. We're going to change the spacing down at the bottom to 1000%. Okay. We're going to leave smoothing on, and we're going to apply some wet edges. So if I just tick that, and make sure you've got smoothing ticked as well. Starting up at the top with shape dynamics, we're going to change some of these settings over here. We're going to set that to 20%. That's the size jitter. We're going to leave it on pen pressure, and we're going to set that to 50%. We're then going to move down to our angle jitter. Okay, leave that on 0%. We're going to turn that to pen tilt, and that's going to be 100%. And then we're going to have our control is set to off, and we're going to set the minimum roundness to 1%. Okay, now we're going to move down to our scattering, and we're going to set it to 33%, that's fine on both axes. control is off, count set to 9, the count jitter is set to 0, and our control is off. Next we're going to look at other dynamics, and we're going to have that set to 0, off, 100%, and we're going to have pen pressure. Right, so that's our brush settings laid out. First thing we need to do is add a new layer where we're going to apply the brush, and we're going to apply a lot of layer styles to this particular layer to get the colors that we want. So double click on that layer and open up the layer style, and we're going to start with a gradient overlay. Set that to normal, 100%, leave that at 90 degrees, and the scaling is 100%. Now you need to choose the colors that you want to have going over these bars. So I'm going to choose one, let's say, I have one saved, no. Okay, so let's choose this one here. I'm just going to take off the red at the end. I don't want it going back to red, and I don't want the yellow. Just going to move a few of these around. Just drag them off. Okay, I like the look of that, so I'm going to click on OK. And then we're going to move on to applying a drop shadow. So a drop shadow, make sure you've got the color set to black. We're going to have that set to dark color. Okay, 75%. You just change that up to 80%. Make sure your angle is set to 120 degrees. And then distance will be 0, 0, and then 2 for the size. And then finally we're going to apply an inner shadow. We're going to leave that on multiply. We're going to change the color to white. And we're going to have that at 100%. 120 degrees is fine. And then we're going to set the distance to 1 and 1 for our size. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to apply our brush to this setting. So all we're going to do is click a few times and see how that's come out. Okay, so I like the look of that. Right, we're going to create another layer, and we're going to copy by control clicking on the previous layer, the layer style, and then we're going to paste it onto our new layer. And then we're going to apply the brush a couple more times. And again, you're just going to play around with this until you get an effect that you like. Something like that, that looks fine. Okay, so I'm just going to close these down so we can see all of our layers. Okay, I'm going to select these two layers and I'm going to merge them together again by control clicking, come down and I just click on merge layers. And now we're going to transform these and start putting them into place. So first thing we're going to do is rotate, and we're going to get them into an area that we're happy with. And then we're going to start to just free transform that, and we're just going to stretch it out a little bit, resizing it. We're going to have it going from left to right. Okay, so something like that, that looks pretty good. Maybe just move it up a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. Right, the next thing we need to do is we're going to apply a warp. So we're going to make it look like this is a ribbon effect around the legs. And again, we just go back up to edit and transform, and we're going to apply the warp. Now this bit's a bit fiddly, so you've got to play around with it for a little bit. And we're just going to start to bend these into place as if it's going around the leg. So I want this to look like that. Bend that down a bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so once you get into a position that you're happy with, just hit enter, or you can click on the tick up the top. Okay, and that's it, we've bent that into place. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to select this leg, and we're going to make this leg show through. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit onto our leg. Pulling down space, I can move around the canvas. And I'm just going to quickly use the pen tool to select around the leg area. Now I'm going to turn off the top layer so we can't see it, and just starting on the bottom of the leg, I'm just going to run along like so. And obviously when I get to the top of the image, just hold down spacebar and move around the image quite easily. Okay, so I'm just rushing through this. You can obviously take your time. Okay, again pressing spacebar just to move around the canvas. At this point I'm going to turn on the top layer, and I'm just going to come down just next to that image there. Okay, once you've finished that area, if you control click or right click in the middle of it, we're going to turn that into a selection. And make sure you've got that top layer, the colored layer selected. We're going to go to layer and add a mask, and we're going to hide that particular selection. You can see the leg shows through there. So I'll just zoom out. Okay, like so. Now if this area here had been showing over there, you could have just erased that using the rubber tool on this layer, but that looks okay. Okay, I'm happy with that cutout. There's a little bit just here I could have taken a bit more time with, but for this tutorial that's worked out just fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a new layer, and we're going to create a clipping mask. Again, I can just control click and create a clipping mask. Now I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to select an average brush. We want to have 0% hardness, so something like a 21's too small. Yep, 65 seems fine. And then we're going to create a light patch from left to right here that's going to reinforce the impression that this is bending around or over the foot. So holding down Shift, if I click the bottom there and then the end, you can see that creates a white line along that leg. Now we're going to apply a 60% opacity. So it's not too strong, it's just about, that's just about right. And again, I'm going to click, just moving up, so you can see a slight bend in the line. In fact, I'm just going to bring that down a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to add another layer and apply another clipping mask. This time I'm going to change to black. We're going to darken this area here as it bends up. So again, if I shift and click, okay, I'm going to drop this opacity right down to, let's say, 40%, somewhere around there. 46, yep, that looks okay. Right, one final little adjustment we're going to make. We're going to add a new layer and we're going to add some noise. So if you come up to your filter, noise, and then we're going to add that noise at around 4%. Oh, that's my mistake. Filter. Let's fill that layer first with white. Okay, come to filter, add your noise. 4% should be good. Click on OK, and then we're going to set that to multiply in our blending options. And you can see that adds a real nice texture to the image. Okay, now I'm just going to name that noise layer. Okay, and then I'm going to go and get the coffee stain image. I just click on that. Should load up fairly quickly. And I'm just going to drag this image from the website straight into my Photoshop file. You can see it's a really large image. I'm just going to click and drag it straight in. And again, I'm going to put this into our current document. And you can rescale this, you can resize it, you can drag it into place. Okay, and this is going to go just below the noise layer. Okay, in fact, there we go, that's right. We're going to go to multiply. And again, once you've put it in place, it doesn't mean you can't move around and play around with it until you get an image that you're happy with. And I quite like it. About there looks fine. You've got some of the spots down at the bottom, down here, and some of the bigger spots up at the top. And that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm Gavin Steele and I've just taken you through PSD Toots Fabio's tutorial on how to mix cool retro curves into your photographs. Okay, thanks very much.